The Marlins couldn't quite get it done against the Bravos. The Braves end up taking the series 2-1. Tons to catch up on, though, on a fun few series for the Marlins. Shohei Ohtani did it. He got there. 50-50 for Ohtani in Miami. Mike Baumann will go down in history, and he will see that clip many, many times for many, many years. Wider news as well. CJ Abrams optioned for all the wrong reasons. Tons to get into. It's the final week on deck. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's your team every day and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. There is a YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. If you are watching, you will see two things. Firstly, it's Wine Monday. Second thing, the UK GOAT, Shaun Barrett, is in the house. Of course, it's Monday. The UK GOAT, Shaun Barrett, how are we doing?
I'm doing well, Pete. Your final week on Locked On Marlins. Let's hope you finish a bit stronger than the Marlins are finishing out the season.
No doubt. The bar is low on that one. I could probably finish it now and would say, yeah, but I think Locked On Marlins had them covered. For sure, but great to have you on, mate. Just want to call out as well, something that you shared in advance of this was that this is your episode 138. 138 episodes you've done with me together in the last just under 3 years, mate. An incredible achievement as well. So I tip my cap to you, mate. And our final episode that I'll be hosting will be next Monday. And so we're going to really finish with a bang then. But nevertheless, it's a Monday. We've got plenty to talk about, and we will talk about it, no doubt. And we'll drink some wine while we're doing it as well. So if you are, watching or listening, hit pause. Go and pour a wine. Join us. Why not? But before we do that, let you know about this episode is sponsored by our good friends over at Booking.com. And Booking.com, it's the right stay, can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com. The official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. Right. Shaun, we've got a ton of content to get into here. We've got the hangover from the Dodgers series because all the conversation walking into that final game, is Ohtani going to get there? Don't think he is. He needs like 2 home runs. Marlins pitching staff clearly going to be too good. He needs a couple of stolen bags. That's not going to happen. Ohtani then has the game, like the game of the ages, laying everything down. Okay, listen, 1 home run came against Vidal Brujan, but he'd already gotten to both of the numbers prior to that. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 season, mate. I think he's being paid about $20,000 by the Dodgers this year, the way they've structured that contract. Nevertheless, mate, what a player. And what a moment. Like, it's kind of cool. My main takeaway about it was Skip Schumaker post-game, actually during the game, just saying, F that, we're not walking him. He's too good for that type of thing. And I love that from Skip, like proper, like, a player's player. Like that to me is doing it the right way with Skip there. But main takeaway, Ohtani getting to 50-50 in Miami, and also the way Skip Schumaker played it.
Yeah, the way Skip played it is the way you want your manager to play it.
Yeah.
He gave the pitchers an opportunity to compete against Ohtani, and the results were somewhat predictable. But yeah, you don't want to. They could have just walked him 5 times. And had him do it at home, I think they're going to next. But it's just weak, isn't it? It just doesn't look
That's
good.
the point.
The Marlins are somewhat a laughing stock quite often. Right? Let's not give anybody any more ammunition. And of course, the fact that he put up such numbers, historic numbers, not just the 50-50, but the numbers that he put up on a single game, numbers that we just do not see. Ohtani is the best player in baseball, in my mind. He's not pitching this year, but we know what he can do on the mound. The fact that he's been isolated just hitting this year, and he's really, shown what he can do. He is, in my eyes, the best player in baseball. The Marlins, they did the right thing. They didn't embarrass themselves. Now, on the field, they didn't. The fact that they were selling tickets at 25, like actual physical, old school,
the stubs
at $25 plus fees on top after the game is always a bit concerning. The Marlins have history with that. They sold Roy Halladay perfect game tickets after the fact to people to make some money. I think that was $10 back when they did that. But yeah, the point is, this is one of those games that people are going to want to say, I was there. Whether or not they actually were, or they just bought ticket stubs or not, is another matter. I mean, we live in a day and age now where we've all got cameras in our pockets. I mean, surely the photo should mean more than ticket stub.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And as well, there was an interesting scenario with the home run ball, which was the 50 ball. And it went into what is now the lounge, let's say. What is the name of that now, Sean? Can you remember?
No, I remember it being something completely different. It used to be the Clevelander, didn't it?
Well, it used to be the the ex-Clevelander, I can't remember the name of it now, like the Affinity Lounge or something along those lines. Anyway, the ball ends up going in that direction, and there's like a huddle of people. This is the funny thing. Everyone's like huddled around in this image, in this video I've seen. I'm thinking, like, what are they watching? Like, it's the Ohtani at bat. There's only one place you should be watching. And particularly if you're in that, you're in the general vicinity of where a home run ball could land. And these guys are just huddled around a table playing a game of dice or something. I don't know what's going on. The ball flies into the lounge. You get a guy whiff on a ball. It then ends up on the deck, and they're all scrambling around trying to get this ball. There's there's two guys fighting over it. One of them is probably a kid by the looks of it, maybe 14, 15. And then the older guy ends up coming away with it, and then the negotiations start. By all accounts, the Dodgers reached out. They said, he opened for a conversation. Yes, I am. He's then ushered away by the stewards, blah, blah, blah. He then doesn't end up doing a deal. By all accounts, they offered him $300,000 for that ball. $300,000 on the spot. He said no, took the ball. Again, to question those guys that are actually in the lounge that weren't watching the game. What the hell? There's a $300,000 minimum value ball there, maybe $1 million, whatever it might be, flying towards you, and you aren't watching. I mean, that just sums up Miami sports or Marlins fans. I don't know, but what a crazy situation. And the other thing too, the balls themselves. Ohtani talked about this after the game as well, saying that it was quite distracting because they brought out specific balls for him. They were badged as pre-authenticated in some ways. Like there's a way for them to know that, okay, they're specific balls or whatever. But that to me just smells like juiced balls. It smells to me like we want Ohtani to get there. We want him to get there as far as he can get. That was just my main takeaway is they're just giving him literally they're giving him golf balls at this point, and they want him to break all the records for whatever reason. But man, oh man, what a wild situation in a season that hasn't been filled with much, national drama on the field as such. But I think it was kind of cool that moment for Ohtani happened against the Marlins. And again, for Ohtani, that's the second time he's delivered a significant milestone with the WBC happening in Lone Depot as well. So he'll look fondly on Lone Depot when he kind of reflects back on his career, I think, right?
Yeah, I think he must love the place.
Yeah.
Is there an option that when he's 45 that he can come down and play for the Marlins?
I think he will.
When he's absolutely squeezed out all the talent he can elsewhere. But yeah, it's very Miami, isn't it? The ball is worth that much money, and you still can't get people to watch the field.
No one's watching baseball. What's going on?
Yeah, it's madness. But no, it's great to see just a historic story in baseball I know it's against the Marlins, but I often bemoan the fact that I don't get to see Ohtani enough.
Yeah.
It's West Coast baseball, and I typically watch 99% of my baseball is Marlins, obviously. So to have him put up something like that in a Marlins game, as a Marlins fan, you just got to tip your cap, haven't you, and say, look, this guy's the greatest, and you can't be too upset that he absolutely smashed the team to bits.
I'm not upset whatsoever. Like, I was cheering him on. Like, I wanted him to do it, and I don't know why, but I just did. There was something inside me that wanted Ohtani to do it in that series. And I felt like it was going to happen in that series. Like, I don't know, like, you know, the Marlins pitching generally, like, I mean, before the series, I thought Beozo was on deck, and I was thinking, boy, oh boy, Ohtani, Beozo, there's going to be some fly balls in that. And Beozo didn't end up pitching the series. But, you know, I think it's just a cool story. But again, going back to it, I loved Skip Schumaker's approach to it. To your point, like, you know, he could have walked the dude, but to what end? Like, why? The Marlins aren't in the mix. The results don't matter. And, you know, this is a great learning curve for the pitchers. Like, these are the time. This is what I said kind of, you know, before the series was, it's great for the Marlins to have to face the Dodgers, you know, in this type of series. Like, the Dodgers are all in. They're fully serious about this series. And you start to learn a lot about, particularly your pitching staff, I think, in these series, right? Where, you know, who can actually stand up and be counted against a team that's like truly competitive. And I think that can help you answer some questions going into the offseason for sure. But Skip Schumaker, I love that. And I felt like he garnered a ton of respect after that as well, because, you know, baseball's funny like that, isn't it? Where people are just desperate to see the game played right, whatever that may mean, and unwritten rules and all that. But like, I think a lot of people respected Skip. We then get some, you know, rumors circulating yesterday that Skip Schumaker now on the short list, let's say, I don't know how short this list will be for the Cincinnati Reds. They move on from their manager. Skip Schumaker played for the Reds, and so there's like some history there, I guess. Skip Schumaker, though, it looks like it will be the end with the Marlins. Spoke about it after the game yesterday, but where can you see him landing? Like, there's a few potential spots. I mean, the Mariners, I think, was like an interesting situation, but the Reds have opened up. The White Sox are open. I mean, the White Sox probably not, but like, where do you think Skip could land here?
Yeah, I think the Mariners an option. I mean, St. Louis is still, obviously, in my mind, the position that he'll probably want the most. And then there's a chance that might become available, especially if it's skipped now or not at all for another 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I would be disappointed if he went to somewhere, especially the White Sox, rather than the Marlins, because we spoke last time about the idea that we'll know by opening day whether because they've traded Luzardo or they've traded Brax, even although the injury might limit that now. We'll know before the season starts, and then the free agents, whether they do or don't pick players, what's going to happen with Sandy. If they're not going to compete next year, then presumably they're going to trade Sandy. I think actually Skip going might be that first domino, because if he has options and decides to stay, that could be the first kind of inkling of, maybe the team aren't going to blow it up. Maybe they have got the idea that they're going to want to compete next year. Because I think there's just enough there that you could make a run at it. But yeah, I mean, realistically, he's going to be gone, and then you ask the question: what happens with Mel? What happens with the rest of the coaching staff? Are we going to go into another year where everything's brand new? It's just, that's going to be a shame, because you don't go for a 1 year compete with a whole brand new coaching staff. This is going to literally be from the ground up. This is going to be bringing probably an older manager, a guy that's been there, done that, and can nurture the young guys coming through. But yeah, I think the Skip decision to me right now seems vital to which way the team lead for next year.
It's a great call out, and it's been something that's been on my mind for some time, because if you're Skip Schumaker at this point and you decide that you prefer, let's say he goes to the Reds, all right? If Skip Schumaker walks away from the Marlins, goes to the Reds, what the hell does that say about Skip Schumaker's confidence belief in the Marlins at this point? Because, I mean, I'm not looking at the Reds and thinking like the window's now and, whatever. I'm looking at like it's a relatively comparable situation. And frankly, the Marlins have had more success than the Reds in the relatively recent years, let's say. I'd see that as a major indictment really of the current situation, and maybe a knowledge of what is to come. And I think that's the point is, as Marlins fans at this point, we don't quite know what this offseason will bring until it's kind of brung. To your point, by opening day, if Luzardo's been moved, that's a clear signal. And then maybe one or two guys beyond that are moved. I don't know. Let's say Jesus Sanchez is moved and Luzardo and a reliever. One eye on the present, one eye on the future. It's a clear indication that they're probably going for a top pick again. No Skip Schumaker. So, I question if Skip moves on, why is he moving on and to where? And if he lands at somewhere that's like comparable to the Marlins, I feel that's a really bad indicator of where we're up to. And then those kind of optimists going, well, 2025 could be interesting because the rotation's back and the offense could be okay. I think that may blow up in smoke really quick. And we may realize actually 25 is going to be a wash, which is always where I was at. I go back to around the deadline, Shaun, like I thought 25 was definitely cooked. It felt like the deadline maybe tweaked our view, but I think if we're totally honest, I think in our heart of hearts, we probably expect 25 to still be a wash. I don't know. Where are you sitting at this point?
I'm still seeing these green shoots and getting myself a little bit too excited.
What the hell's happened here? Sure, what the hell has happened? How are you more optimistic than me?
See, I'm well tenured in the Marlins experience. I've been through this too many times. Look, you're right that maybe I'm just fooling myself. Maybe I'm just being. I've been the Marlins fan for 20 years. I'm not here because they're not able to fool me. Fool me once, fool me twice. They've fooled me for 20 years. So maybe I am just a fool.
There's no comment from me. No comment in that topic area. But I think we don't know. I think this is the key bit with the whole, what does 2025 look like? At this moment, it's too early to judge. But I feel like if Skip Schumaker actively jumped ship to go to a relatively comparable situation, like if Skip Schumaker doesn't believe, then why should anyone else? That's kind of the question I'm posing. If Skip doesn't believe, then why should the fans? Don't know. I'll ask him. I don't know. So let's hit the first ad. I do want to talk about kind of carrying on the Ohtani conversation, actually, because something that's been interesting on Twitter, again, like Twitter creates these news stories and it's good to talk about them. Ohtani gets 50-50. Everyone waxing lyrical. I felt like they juiced the balls. Like they clearly had special balls for Ohtani. They may badge it as it's to make sure they're authentic and we can track them. More likely, they're golf balls that look like baseballs. The Braves fans are jumping up and down because, I mean, the Braves fans are always jumping up and down. That's just the Braves fans. But they're jumping up and down because they went, hold on a minute. Ronald Acuna Jr. went 40-70 last year. Historic campaign. Where was this love? Where was the love? There was no love. So I want to talk about that. Is Ohtani's 50-50 better, equal to Acuna's 40-70? Or is there something else at play? Why Acuna doesn't get the love from MLB? Before we do that, let's firstly talk about our good friends over at booking.com. Yes, sir. And if the producer can get the graphics up, he can. And this episode of Locked On Marlins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. And you can explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Other baseball cities, of course, with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more at Booking.com. you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. And with Booking.com's wide variety of choice across the US, you can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities. No doubt about it. Booking.com delivers exactly the right US stay for you and can help you book a stay that's close to your home team's or rival's stadium. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any US city, from hotels that look over the stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays. Booking.com has so many choices across the US. The right stay can make you a fan of any US city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. And this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, particularly Dolphins fans, you may be in pain right now. Nevertheless, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Welcome back to Locked On Marlins with me, Peter Pratt, and the UK GOAT, Shaun Barrett. We're running long in this episode, seemingly, but it doesn't matter. The wine is flowing, and so is the baseball chatter. Shaun Barrett, 50-50 from Ohtani. A lot of hype. Juiced balls, personalized balls, whatever it might be. Ronald Acuna Jr., 40-70. Braves fans are moaning. Ronnie didn't get the love. Did Ronnie get the love? And what is more impressive, 40-70 or 50-50 in your opinion?
I think you have to go 50-50. I think the home runs over the stolen bases, especially with the base change as far as distances, I think I'm almost inclined to call that now the Ohtani rule, because before this, so the 3 years prior, he had 57 stolen bases. He had 55 this year. Across that period, those 3 years, now, of course, one of those years included the changes in bases, but the previous two didn't. So over those 3 years, he had the same amount of stolen bases, but he had 25 caught stolen compared to just 4 this year. Like,
wow.
Ohtani was running more often than maybe he should have done. If you look at like the analytics, you want to be around that 75% mark. He absolutely wasn't, especially the 2 years prior to the actual change. His numbers are disgusting. In 2022, he had 11 stolen bases and 9 caught stolen. Like, he was getting caught as much as he was stealing.
Dear
The changes in these rules really did benefit Ohtani an awful lot. Now, he's a big dude, don't get me wrong. Like, he shouldn't really be stealing. But I think he's just having some fun, isn't he? The change in rules means that he can steal bases.
Yeah.
Would I, being the Dodgers, want my ace, best player, stealing bases? Because the value of stolen bases isn't that great. You know, if he hurts his ankle or twists his knee, or 2 months of Ohtani is just not worth being off the field. It's not worth him not being in the team. So that's interesting to me. But yeah, I think the biggest difference between Ohtani and Acuna for me is the marketability. And I don't mean in America, I mean around the world. That Asian market is so important to MLB. The fact that he went to the Dodgers after being in with the Angels, him being on the West Coast is so valuable to the MLB because of the Asian market and the time zone. Yeah, we know from here how difficult the West Coast to here can be. If he was on the East Coast, it'd be similar to the Asian market, which is obviously a lot of money. So I think and they were juice balls. The juice balls and all this marketing is literally just the league recognizing that there's this money stream that's available to them that they need to focus on. The issues that Ohtani had at the beginning of the year with this betting scandal, I mean, the league couldn't have done any more work to try and sweep that under the rug and get rid of it, because it would have cost them all an awful lot of money, not just Ohtani.
No doubt about it. I think what you're saying in summary is the Asian market is more lucrative than the Venezuelan market at this point, which is correct, by the way. And this makes total sense. Ohtani, they need him to be good. They juiced the balls to ensure that he was good. They quelled betting scandals, covered it up, maybe, whatever. Who knows? Who knows the truth in that situation? Because they need Ohtani to be good. Acuna is good, but the Venezuelan market isn't as important to Major League Baseball, and more generally, the point you make around stolen base is completely true. Like the value and the numbers, the counting stats around stolen bases these days, it's like it's a bit of a nonsense, really. Like if you want to run, you can run. So be it. Some teams say you can't run, and that's it. You know, we kind of seen that a little bit with Jazz and his transition from the Marlins to the Yankees, and there's been like a clear, distinct change, seemingly, with Jazz. And you know, in Miami, like he wasn't actually running that effectively, and when he did run, it wasn't that often. The Yankees, it's just like full go. And now he's just like, okay, I'm just going to take third. Like, and everyone's just like, cool, Jazz is taking third. Stolen bases and these rules, it's like completely changed. So I'm with you. Like 50-50 is more impressive. Who's a more valuable player in your? I mean, we haven't spoken about the Marlins at all yet, but it doesn't matter. We'll get to them in the final segment. We've also got Aaron Judge, or Arson Judge, as he's also known in other circles. But Aaron Judge doing what he does. He doesn't steal bags to the degree that Ohtani does. I haven't prepped you at all for Aaron Judge, so, you know, bearing that in mind. But he does play the field. Not very well, by the way, but he does play the field. Who's the more valuable player, in your opinion, at this point? Ohtani, Judge, or Acuna?
I think if we're talking about Ohtani purely as a hitter,
then take the pitching away. Take the pitching away.
With the pitching, it's him by a country mile.
Obviously,
I think it's close. I think Judge. I mean, it's funny enough. Judge's defensive value is only slightly above Ohtani's, even though he's a defender, because he's so poor as a defender. Maybe he should be a DH, which is strange. I think it's what you're going to find people that are going to tie themselves in knots trying to pick one or the other. I mean, if you want to go by F-WAR, which is something that we talk about a lot, then it's Judge by quite a margin, actually. And second place is actually Bobby Witt Jr., who is putting up a 30-30 season with very good defense at a key spot. So it all depends on how you want to make your team's construction. Obviously, all three players are vitally important to their three teams individually. But for me, Ohtani, just because I know we're not supposed to be counting the pitching, but you can't get that out of the back of your head that this guy is elite at both. It's just unbelievable. And I've really enjoyed just seeing what he can do when he has to only focus on the hitting this year. And to do 50-50, hitting 300, like he does that. He does it all apart from field, obviously.
I mean, if they put him in the outfield, I'm sure he'd be amazing, by the way. Like, I don't know, but did he play the field? Like, at some point, I don't even know. I feel like he used to play right field a little bit when in his Angels days. I'm sure he'd be fine. I mean, listen, the dude's an absolute stud. And like I said, I think it was great that, that season is connected with the Marlins now forever. I do love the fact that he took no prisoners, by the way. Like, Vidal Brujan's out there. I think it was a multi-inning effort maybe from Brujan. I can't even remember, but it was like, Brujan was out there trying his best. And Ohtani, he didn't care. He's like, I'm taking Brujan deep. And he absolutely destroyed one from him as well, which I thought was hysterical. So let's hit the final ad, unless you've got anything to add on Ohtani's fielding efforts or not in the interim period.
He did 8.1 innings in the outfield in 2021.
There we go. See, I knew I'd seen him in the outfield at some point. Let's hit the final ad, and then let's talk some Marlins for maybe the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't know. Listen, it's my final week of Locked On Marlins. They normally say cut it at 30p, but I think 45 might be the watershed in the final week. So with that being said, it's time to let you know about our good friends over at PrizePicks. And we need the graphics up again. One day they will have a producer on this show. Our good friends over at PrizePicks. It is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's you against the numbers. No sharks. Don't have to worry about them. You against the numbers. Pick your players. Pick your stats. Let's go, baby. All you do is pick more or less standard 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in, baby. And you could 100 times your dough on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the best way to get in on the action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So simply head to download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Final segment here on Locked On Marlins on Monday, the 23rd of September with me, Peter Pratt, and the UK GOAT, Shaun Barrett. We're talking some Marlins now, guys. So for all the Marlins fans, tune in. This is your moment. And I mean, boy, oh boy, what news do we want to talk about? Let's cover the Brax and Garrett news, because Braxy looked to be on schedule to reappear in this Braves series. Unfortunately, he didn't. People are scratching their heads going, oh, where's Brax? We then get the news that he's not going to be reappearing this season. He experienced some elbow discomfort during a bullpen. Oh boy, Shaun. This season for Braxton Garrett has been absolutely one to forget, off the back of a career high in innings, we should call out. But Brax has had issues through spring, tried to come back, issues after that, tries to come back, now an elbow issue. We don't know what the future looks like here, but boy, oh boy, this season could not have got any worse, I don't think, for Braxton Garrett, right?
For Braxton Garrett and the Marlins starting pitching, I mean, you've now got Sandy, Brax, Luzardo, Maya, Perez, all down on the DL. We'll add on Sixto Sanchez just for a laugh.
Yeah. Rehab, by the way. Sixto, by the way. He's rehabbing.
So am I. And the whole team have struggled this year because of that rotational issue. For Brax, it's a major concern. Whenever you hit elbow, it's the last thing you want to hit. Brax, of course, already having had Tommy John surgery. If that were to be the case, this would be his second. And the recovery for a second one has improved over the last sort of 5-10 years, but it's still not as guaranteed as your first one. So it's definitely a concern. Obviously, hopefully it's not a Tommy John situation, but whenever you hit elbow, and with my general disposition, I have to think the worst until I'm told otherwise. And it'd be a massive shame. Yeah, Brax coming off the previous year, coming into this year, we were wondering where he'd slot in. Would it be as a number 3 behind? Well, Sandy we knew was going to be down, but as far as best pitchers on this team, was it going to be Sandy, then Luzardo, then Garrett? Would you put him above Luzardo potentially? Who knows? He was coming off a really promising season, and I was really, really looking forward to seeing what he could put up. And as it is, it's been a real stinted season with these injuries. So you just have to hope and pray that this isn't anything too serious and that he can come back, if not for opening day, before July.
Yeah, almost 160 innings for Braxy last season, and he really ascended, obviously making an appearance in the postseason for the Marlins. It was a big part of the rotation in 23, and a big part of why the Marlins had so much success, because it wasn't just about Sandy Alcantara, and it was about your Braxton Garretts that stepped up, took their level up, took their innings up. And we're kind of feeling the pain in that now where, the innings, they caught up in some ways. Luzardo the same. We've seen exactly the same with Jesus Luzardo. In reality, we saw exactly the same with Sandy. And they try to get creative with Yuri Perez and his management. And for all the creativity, they end up back in a spot that they were trying to avoid, which is kind of crazy. But another guy coming off the IL, it seems, tomorrow. Marlins off day today, but they start a series against the Twins. Another guy coming off the IL, and someone that I think could have had a serious role the rest of the way, all the rest of this campaign, but ended up kind of scuppering it himself, is Dane Myers. Dane, according to Isaac Azut, multiple sources from Isaac Azut on that one, so that's encouraging. But Dane Myers are likely to come off the IL, join the Marlins, for this series, and I guess the final two series. We don't quite know what the corresponding move will be, but yeah, for Dane Myers, he played himself, Shaun, into a position where there was playing time available. He then ends up breaking his foot/ankle, kicking a door, or whatever it might have been. He kicked something, lashing out in frustration. So I'm from Dane's perspective, this has been probably a really frustrating situation where there was like a ton of playing time available for him, and he's kind of foregone that. He's going to get a look in the final week, but how much playing time we don't know. I'm very interested about Dane Myers generally about next year, like what the Marlins see for him and how maybe high they are on him and what role he could maybe step into in 25. So Dane back. Do you expect him to play much this week?
I'm really surprised that he is back.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Obviously, the kicking of the door, whatever it was that broke the foot. We spoke a lot about this being the season of opportunity for these kind of guys, these quad A guys. Look what Bride's doing, for example, with his opportunity. This was an opportunity that Myers had. And I wouldn't want to kick him too much when he's down. But in his rehab, we were seeing sort of chirping from him on Twitter even about players on the field. I'm like, there's clearly a maturity issue here, and I just don't see enough quality with the bat that the Marlins are going to give him another opportunity. This is, do you remember Paul Campbell when he came back from his suspension? And I thought that he had to show me something. He had to be contrite, and he had to show me something for the reason why the Marlins continue to give him an opportunity. And Myers is in that same camp for me. And yes, it's only a week, and yes, he might only get an at bat, but then why? Who's getting sent down for him to replace them? If I'm that player, I'm realizing very quickly, damn, if this guy's ahead of me, then I'm definitely not in this team's plans for the future.
It's a good call out as well on the roster aspect of this. And me and you were trying to piece this together before we hit record here. And so we'll see where we go. He's on the 60-day. The 40-man's full. So thus they need to clear a spot both on the 40-man and the active roster, which, creates some complexity in some ways. The best guesses that we would have at this point is, there's one option. Dane Myers is an outfielder. He then went on the IL. The Marlins ended up adding Christian Pache. Pache has no options. And if they don't see a future for him, potentially, it could be just DFA Pache and, you then bring Dane Myers up to A, take his 40-man and B, his 28-man spot at this point. That's one option. There are other options. It could include maybe sending Javier Sanoja back down, but then you still need to get Big Dane back onto the 40-man. I think you called it out to say, well, what about Max Meyer to the 60-day IL, which I think does make a ton of sense because, well, Max's season's over. You can easily transfer him to the 60, create that spot for now. Which way do you think they go, Shaun, to get him back on?
It's interesting. You'd say Sanoja because then you're not risking the issue with Pache, but Why are we worried about that as well? I think realistically it will be Pache. Just because, I don't see him having a future with this team. And again, I'm just so surprised that the Marlins are putting themselves in this situation by giving Myers an opportunity again. I think the ship should really have sailed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's been fine. I've kind of liked some of the stuff from Dane, but it's all relative, right? Because I was probably comparing Dane Myers to Avi Garcia at this point. Like, it was kind of like I was going, great, Dane is amazing versus Avisel Garcia. And so maybe I've got some rose-tinted glasses with him. I don't know. Listen, I like the story with Dane generally, and let's see what he can do. It's maybe surprising that he makes his way back up, but it's kind of encouraging. And the Marlins seem to be doing this, right, where they're pushing the ticket, trying to get Weathers back in. Weathers is back up. They're pushing the ticket with Brax, trying to get him back. Pushing the ticket with Brujan, he's back up. Pushing the ticket with Dane. They seem to want to get these guys all back up for like the final week. And just kind of, I don't know for what purpose. Like, why they're so adamant that we have to see these injured dudes for the last 2 weeks. To what end? And then with Brax, clearly it's blown up in their face because maybe they've pushed Brax a little bit too hard. Maybe he's pushed himself a bit too hard. And now next thing is, man, if it's Tommy John, then geez, I mean, that was absolutely not worth. Like, that is the worst case situation. That's PJ Morlando weightlifting competition territory if that's the case. And, it's not optimal. So we'll wait to see. We don't have the full detail on that. One other guy I did want to briefly touch on, though, Shaun, because, again, Twitter helps to build, the stories and the talk tracks that we want to get into. I saw a tweet around Jonah Bride earlier today saying that absolutely Jonah Bride is a lock almost for the Marlins roster in 2025. He's been that good, seemingly, in his, since Bell's been moved, etc., etc. I wanted to get your sense. I want to get your sense about where you're at with Jonah Bride at this point specifically. I won't lead the witness because I do have some thoughts myself, but just, has he been good? And how good? And does this level of production automatically mean he's a lock for the roster in 25?
I can't quite decide where I am with Bride. I've called him pudgy on this. I've called him average. I've called him boring. I think maybe I haven't. I have now. But undeniably, he's putting up decent / slightly above average numbers. So 108 WRC plus, 8 home runs in 65 games. Let's call this 25 home runs with 250 average. This sounds an awful lot like two other rather lumbering first basemen of Marlins past in Justin Bour and Garrett Cooper. That's kind of where I'm pigeonholing him at the moment. A guy that is slightly above average, but is limited to first base action and DH only. These are guys that can do a job. And I think he has a little bit more positional flexibility. He can just about fake it till he makes it a third. But I really wouldn't want to see that other than a spot start here and there. So I think for the Marlins, it's that question of, is he going to be a bench bat? Kind of limiting your flexibility, especially now with the way that teams are constructed? Or is he going to be that quad A player that if the team are pushing next year, then he's going to probably start AAA and be that next man up. If the team are cooked, then he'll probably be on the major league roster. He's got an option next year, so there's a lot of flexibility with his contract as opposed to his positional ability. I just don't know. I just don't see enough there, which is weird because some of his numbers are numbers that I kind of like, in that he'll take a walk and he doesn't strike out too much. He's just very, very uninteresting. But sometimes that's good enough to put numbers up to perform to the level that you need to. So I can't put him in place at the moment. He's the kind of guy that I really, really should love. That kind of undeserving role of this guy that's
Yeah.
just plugging
Yeah.
away, doing his job, unheralded. These are the kind of guys that I like. So who knows? In a few months' time, I might be heralding him as a a must-watch guy. But right now, I'm just really struggling with him.
So no Jonah Bride jersey this offseason for you?
I still haven't got a Garrett Cooper jersey, believe it or not.
Okay. Well, that's probably a good thing, I guess. But man, Jonah Bride, the opportunity has arrived because this is a full tank mode situation. And he's been okay. Like, fine. Go and have a look at his Savant page, by the way. It is the most uninspiring Savant page for a first baseman I've ever seen. Like, you see, it's an easily indicator, right? Like, you go and look, and he takes a walk. He doesn't chase a ton. But I want to see something different from a first baseman. I want to see a profile that is not this profile. Bride is okay. But man, oh man, if we are inking these types of dudes into the offense, this offense that is putrid, this offense has been disgraceful. I know everyone's made excuses about the rotations dead and everyone's on the IL. But the offense has been a disgrace. More wine, please. And if this is the standard we're setting, this is the point. This like recency bias attributed to Jonah Bride because he's played okay, taken a few walks and hit 8 home runs. He is not a starting player on any serious offense, on any serious team. Not. He's not. Jonah Bride, nice as he may be, glasses as sharp as they may be, vanilla as you like, but man, oh man, for me, it is the most uninspiring tweet I've ever seen to say Jonah Bride is an automatic lock for the 2025 Marlins offense. I mean, come on. Where are we as a fan base if that is what we're after? And I'm going to call out right now to say Jonah Bride is not on the opening day roster. He is either in AAA or is DFA'd. Just want to call out. There's no way Jonah Bride is on the opening day roster. There are many other dudes that should be ahead of Jonah Bride, in my opinion. Agustin Ramirez is one. De Los Santos is another. There's just two, top of my head. There'll be some other moves. Who knows what, but man, if Jonah Bride is on this offense to start opening day, again, we're going back to it, Sean, bad indicators. If Skip Schumaker looks at this and says, I think the Reds are a better landing spot for me, then what does that say about this rebuild? And if Jonah Bride is on opening day roster, what does that say to me? It's more of the same in 2025 that we've seen in 2024. Yes, he's been fine with the opportunity, but man, oh man, can we at least set our bar higher than Jonah Bride? Come on. Am I being harsh here? I don't know. Maybe I am.
I do feel sorry for that at this point because
we've absolutely rinsed him. I hope he never listens to this show.
I think you're right in the sense of like the expectation should be higher, and it will be evidence of where the season's going. At this point now, I'm fully expecting a slight injury to Berger, a hit by pitch, 15-day IL situation. Jonah Bride's going to be the opening day first baseman for the Marlins.
Man, oh man. I mean, prayers up to the Locked On Marlins host, whoever that may be. Good luck with covering that bad boy. Boy, oh boy. I mean, it's just uninspiring. It's so uninspiring, and I get it. I get it. There's guys there that maybe are like longer term, like they may, you look at De Los Santos. He's gone over 40 home runs in AAA. I mean, if De Los Santos isn't on your opening day roster at this point after what you've done in AAA, then what's the point? What's the point? And I think Berger and De Los Santos / Ramirez, those three, I think are going to be your kind of like rotating first baseman, catchers, DHs, whatever order you want to play that. So let's see how it goes. I'm sorry to absolutely load in on Jonah Bride, but he's just so uninspiring. And this is the thing for me. This again is another indicator for the Marlins, where we see with the Marlins organization the guys that they believe in, because they put them in those players in the situations where they have time with the media and they're building profiles, etc., etc. I don't think I've ever heard from Jonah Bride once at all. I would say, like, I can't think of anything about Jonah Bride post game, during the game, nothing. Again, that's an indicator to me where all of a sudden I've seen a load of Connor Norby interviews. I've seen a load of Stowers. I've seen a load of Berger. Okay, this is the core that the Marlins are pushing Xavier Edwards early in the year. Great. Nothing about Jonah Bride. That says to me, I think this is a fringe dude that probably isn't going to be on the roster, but he's hit 8 home runs and we're happy with that. But, he could take a walk. So, anything further to add on Jonah Bride?
I'm pretty certain Jonah Bride did an episode of Miami Mic'd Up with Jeremy Taché.
Uh-oh.
And now Jeremy Taché is a fantastic interviewer.
Okay.
That was one of the slowest 20 minutes of my life.
Holy smokes. Is that true? I mean, why would I question Shaun Barrett? This must be true. So I'm going to go and listen to that episode because I haven't listened to it. Maybe I need to re-educate myself on Jonah Bride, but it sounds like I didn't miss a ton. Sean, we're out of time here. We're way over time. I jokingly said to you it would be done for 11:30 our time, and it is 23:27 UK time. So I was only half joking. Have you got any wine left in your glass?
No, it needs recharging.
Agreed. Same. So with that being said, we're going to get out of here. Going to recharge our glasses. Probably go and watch a Jonah Bride montage on YouTube. see what's going on. I'm going to go and listen to Miami Mic'd Up. Guys, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. And back tomorrow, of course. Thanks to the UK GOAT for joining me on a Monday. Just to call out, the final episode will be on a Monday. So I'm convinced that the UK GOAT has one more appearance in him. That will be episode 139 for Shaun Barrett in that time. So, guys, we're back tomorrow. Another guest to be confirmed, but we'll see you then.